right, doors are opening. Hello, everyone. As you're joining us, please drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Love to hear where everybody is on the call. Or for our panelists, we're going to introduce them all in a minute, but you're going to see Lisa and Tim and Chrissy. So as you're joining, as we're going through, feel free to drop in the chat if you have any questions. You can also use that Q&A feature. We'll be answering questions throughout. Let's get started. So my name is Jennifer. I'm the Growth Marketing Manager here at Rise Vision. This is transforming education with digital signage. So we are talking about digital signage in K-12 schools and using it at different grade levels and for really different audience levels. So we have Tim Hodges. He is here from Minnesota, Chrissy Macy, and Lisa York. And I'm going to actually do an intro of each of them. So don't worry, we'll get a little bit more detail. Like I said, if you have any questions, put them in the chat or use the Q&A feature. We are going to be answering them live, and then we will have time at the end to go through and answer as well. I am going to send out a recording of today's session. It might go out tomorrow just because it's near the end of the day and it takes some time to get that ready. Quick agenda. So it's going to be pretty loose. We're having a discussion or fireside chat type of session. I'm going to do a brief introduction of what Rise Vision is. I'm going to introduce our panelists. We're going to get into that panel discussion, and then we have time at the end for Q&A. And just so I don't forget, and because at the end of the session, people tend to log off quickly, there will be a post-webinar survey, and you can win a gift card if you participate in that. Let's get into it. Rise Vision, we're the #1 digital signage solution for K-12 schools. If you're not familiar with digital signage, you're in the right place to learn all about it. But most people, I think, are familiar with digital signage or Rise Vision in some capacity. Digital signage, specifically Rise Vision, helps school improve communication, increase student involvement, create a positive school culture, and increase school safety. So there are lots of benefits of having this communication tool in your school, not only for student communication, but for staff and for parents and for visitors. So there's a whole bunch of benefits of having digital signage. I'm going to do a quick intro of our panelists. So Tim is the middle and high school principal at Cannon Falls in Cannon Falls, Minnesota. He has been a principal since 2010, which is quite a while. And before that, you used to teach English and math at the middle school level. So lots of experience at that middle school and high school level. And I love this, Tim, and I'm going to share it. But you were named the Principal of the Year in 2023. And I read that you were also named Principal of the Year in 2017. That's great. And if anybody is looking for advice on being a principal at the middle school, high school level, you should probably talk to Tim. Tim, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and anything to add?
Sure. I started my career in education in 1992 in Southwest Kansas, and unique situation there in 1992-93 school year. My school district started teaching kids how to code web pages. And as a single guy in Southwest Kansas, there's not a whole lot to do. So I got really involved in technology at that time, spent some time with some other teachers building Ethernet networks in all of the schools in the district, and became a district technology coordinator. Moved to Minnesota and focused more on teaching, but as I became principal, that communication piece, not only with students, but staff and the community, became huge, and digital signage seemed like a really logical option for us. I'm in a small rural school, and the schools are really the focus of everything in the town, and my building is busy. Not only do we want to promote school programs, but we want to promote what's going on in the community as well, and digital signage has been a really logical way for us to do that. My school signage rotates off at about 3:30, and I start putting up things that are more community focused at that time. We've got displays that show wayfinders for different parts of the building. And then we've got signs that also are basically what's going on in these areas as far as activities throughout the day. I've been using Rise Vision for quite a while now, and if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, that is a great testament, Tim. I'm not going to tell you what I was doing in 92 because it'll make you maybe a little bit sad, but we'll move on. So next up on our panelist is Chrissy. So she is an education technology specialist at a middle school in New Jersey. over 19 years of experience in education, and similar to Tim, was teaching at the middle school level, special education and general education language arts. So that's great. And currently in your role, you have a lot going on besides education technology, but you're supporting professional development at your school, one-on-one Chromebook initiatives. So love to see that. And digital citizenship, which we could talk a little bit more about. Why don't you say hi, Chrissy? Give everybody a brief intro of yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chrissy. I'm an educational technology specialist, just like Jen said, from a school district in New Jersey. And I began my career as a special education teacher. And it was during that time that I found my niche for integrating technology when I was teaching general English language arts to a group of sixth graders. I became that go-to person. And I was using, if you remember those white MacBooks, that's what we were using to support technology integration in the classroom at that time. I hate to say it was pre-Google because that makes me sound old, but it was pre-Google. I was using Wikispaces. If anyone remembers what Wikispaces was, it's now since been retired. But yeah, so in my current role, which I love, I get to do a little bit of everything. So I support teachers, I teach them how to integrate effectively, introduce them to our platforms, students with our Chromebook initiative, appropriate digital citizenship. And of course, we adopted Rise Vision. I want to say this is our second year we are with Rise Vision right now. So we were looking for solutions to support all of our students and showcase all the wonderful things that we do as a building. And just like Tim said, if I can do it, I think anyone else could do it.
Awesome. Perfect. And then last up on our panelists, we have Lisa. So she is a teacher consultant in Saline outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, which might be one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. She has over 20 years experience in education, specializing in technology integration, specialized instruction, and behavioral intervention. And she was a champion at Saline who brought in Rise Vision. Special place in my heart for Lisa. Why don't you say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Yep, my name's Lisa York. Jen, I'm from Saline, Michigan. I know, it's every time. It's okay. But we're in Saline, Michigan. It's a smaller community just south of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Our current school district numbers, we have 4,800 students approximately across the district. And I am at the middle school where we have just over 1,000 students at our middle school, housing grades 6 through 8. I work currently as a teacher consultant at the 6th through 8th grade level, and another coworker who has since retired and I brought digital signage with the use of Rise Vision as well to our district. Saline Middle School first, and then we've gone since there. We've launched broader in our district. We saw a need for inclusiveness and accommodations for our students, our special needs students. And it's just snowballed from there in a really good way. Right now, we have I think we have 12 displays at our middle school, and I can talk a little bit more about that. We are on our 5th year of using Rise Vision in our district, and we have ideas for growing stronger and using it more throughout the district later on.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about what your school is doing because we had a webinar with Jay earlier this year talking about your guys' district's use of the emergency alerts really integrated into your district. All right, let's get into it. I really love that you all have been using Rise for a different number of years. So we have like the newer users, and then Lisa, you guys have been using it for 5+ years, and then I mean, Tim, you've been using it a while. Lots of great experience. Okay. So first up, I want to talk about what we're here for. So we're talking about digital signage at different grade levels. So my first question, and let's just keep this high level. So Tim, why don't you talk a little bit about how your school is using digital signage? Is it more in the classroom, in the common areas? How are you using it at the high school and middle school level?
Sure. Right now, we are not using Rise Vision in classrooms, but so it's mostly our common areas. We've got things separated. I have different schedules that run for our middle school hallway and for our high school hallway. Yeah, that's the size of my school. I can say I've got just a hallway for each of those different levels of kids. But we also have some other different things that are cool. We have a teacher who's very into recognizing our students who are in the armed forces. So we have a screen that displays just former graduates of Cannon Falls High School that are in the armed forces and information about them. We also have plans to use Rise Vision as a display for our athletic Hall of Fame. So outside of our main gym. So we've got screens in both the middle school, high school office and the district office that are general information for folks that are coming in. So right now, that's where we're at. The classroom piece is potentially something that we're looking at down the road, especially with the advent of being able to do screen sharing using Rise Vision. That is something that is very intriguing to us because cables break not only the ports off on computers, but also on the TVs that we're displaying on too. So being able to display wirelessly in all the classrooms was really intriguing to us. So
yeah, I love that. And then you're also unleashing the teachers from the front of the classroom, and then they can roam about and lots of cool things with screen sharing. All right, Chrissy, how is your school using digital signage?
Right now, we are using them just like in common areas. Like Tim, we have 6, soon to be 7 TVs. We reorganized the school to separate our students into grade levels. So, like, our 6th grade has its own academy now. So, we want to bring the digital signage into that wing of the building just for those 6th graders. So, right now, we're using that. But bigger picture, I just completed a visual system where all of our teachers now can wirelessly project. So, I feel like once we get comfortable with that with the staff, I would like to move to more investigating, like, how could we bring Rise Vision like even further into our building with our teachers. But right now it's just common areas that we are leveraging them in: hallways, the cafeteria, the main atrium, places like that.
Awesome. Perfect. And Lisa, what about you? How are you guys using digital signage?
With Saline Schools, we initially launched at the middle school where I'm currently located, and that has the majority of our displays. So we currently have 12 displays throughout our building. We are using Rise Vision across the district. All of our buildings have at least one display, including as well as our community education center. They are also using Rise Vision. Specifically at the middle school where we have the majority of our displays, like I said, we have 12. Our building is similar to what Chrissy was talking about with hers, where we have things segregated a little bit, like 6th grades up front, 7th grade over here, 8th grade over there. Most of our displays are located in all common areas like the hallway. For sure, the vestibule, the front vestibule where parents are coming in, dropping off and picking up students, or any of the public members would come through that area. And then I would say the media center is another location where we have larger displays that are being utilized. And then the classroom, the only classroom specific I would say is the gymnasium, but that's also our place where we are holding like our sports events. So that's open to the public as well. When I say that our Rise Vision displays are zoned, it means that we're showing specific content relevant to those zoned areas, and also recognizing who the audience is going to be in that location to make sure that we have the timing just right for that information, as well as what's being displayed for those people.
Yeah, awesome, Lisa. We'll definitely talk a little bit more about how your content changes based on your audience.
Yeah.
So that's great. They aren't able to be here, but I did want to provide an example because we do have more middle and high school focus today on this panel. But we have a school in Georgia, and then we were talking to them about using digital signage at the primary or the elementary school level. And obviously, when you have younger kids who might not be reading as much as obviously a middle or high school, but they use digital signage a lot for parent communication. So if you do have a school where your kids are younger, they're not reading or they're not reading as much, digital signage can be a great way to keep the parents informed, especially when they're doing drop off and stuff like that. So another great example. All right. For each of you, what are the most common use cases that you're using digital signage for? Tim, I know you had mentioned you guys are showcasing your alumni that go into the armed forces. That's great. You also have your athletic Hall of Fame. And I think somebody else mentioned event promotion. So what kind of other examples are you using digital signage for? What other ways are you using it? Lisa, why don't we go back to you, because I know that your district, you're also using it for emergency alerts. But is there
Yeah.
anything else what are your most common situations that you're using digital signage for?
Okay. Celine, initially, like I had said before, we secured Rise Vision as a means to address accommodations for students. So we had a lot of students who were missing the auditory announcements that we all have that happen over the sound system in our buildings. So we wanted to add that visual layer to it. Since then, it has grown into shaping the culture of our building and our district as a whole with the different things that we can display. We use it to obviously display announcements, and then also just look at we have our compass in the background. We want to make sure those things are prominently displayed. The building expectations, we have our 4Bs that we are always displaying, but then anything for the month, like any holiday or national recognition that we would like to keep students aware of, that is displayed. So those are our big picture. And then we drill it down into daily information as well, being our sports events in our building, as well as the district, anything we might be celebrating district-wide, daily announcements on things like students need to be aware of any new policy changes that we might be having. And then, as you had talked about, Jennifer, we do pair with Informacast, and our buildings are now wired in such that when there is, say, an evacuation alert or there's any type of building alert that happens, Informacast will then tie directly with our digital displays. And this is something that we were working towards as well for that accommodation piece that we wanted for students, where the displays will automatically show exactly what is the alert. So say if it's a fire drill and students need to evacuate, there is a specific sign that I can edit. I can go in and edit if I need to, but it gives the specific steps to what students need to do. And it also alerts them that there is a drill happening, or there is an actual instance happening in the building, and that they need to act.
Great. Okay. Yeah, love that. Emergency alerts with digital signage are huge. Chrissy, did you have any other examples or use cases that you're using for digital signage, or did you want to just talk briefly about your school's use of digital signage for digital citizenship, which is huge, especially in today's day and age, now that Google and the internet are everywhere?
I think I can address a little bit of both. So just like Lisa was saying, we address like the big cultural items. We're not really scaling it down to different grade levels because we do consider ourselves like one whole community, but we're using it for after school activities, like showing the kids what's available, student recognition. So we like to post our student of the months on there with their certificates. We're just displaying Hispanic Heritage Month. So we do like to make sure that we are including all the different recognition. It's October Cyberbullying Month or Bullying Month. And then we just did the Week of Respect here in New Jersey. So I actually was able to take that digital citizenship common sense template and adjust it to the different activities that we were going to be doing during the day to remind students what was happening each day during the week. So I think for us, we're using it more as a way to make sure that our students are aware of what's happening in the building. And like Lisa said, we've also been eyeing our district security manager and I, like just being able to broadcast once we are able to get into everyone's room, the different types of alerts that would be happening, such as a fire drill, evacuation, so on and so forth.
Awesome. Actually, funny, speaking of emergency alerts, Tracy had commented, she said she had to step out because they initiated a hold from Raptor, which is another emergency alert provider, and it pushed out to all of their smart boards. So great timing for that. Okay, Tim, one thing that you had shared with me, so we did a case study on Cannon Falls, I want to say earlier this year, but the year has really just flown by. But one thing that you shared with me, Tim, was that your high school students think it's very mortifying to have their photos or to have their birthdays announced, which is a really common use case for digital signage, is to be sharing student birthdays. So at the high school level, that might be cringe. But are there any other examples, Tim, that you're using digital signage for on a regular basis?
Yeah, I learned really fast that one you can't put on the general to every screen. If you do it to the middle school screen, it's fine. The high school screen, not so much. Honestly, probably the biggest things that we push out are our varsity sports information and our school lunches. That's a huge one. We also put our daily announcements up on our screens too. We found that even though we email those to every kid, that's not where they get that information. They get those more from looking at the screens because You can walk down a hallway and read those announcements as you're walking down the hallway, as opposed to having to open up a Chromebook to get those from an email. But the main things we use it for are pushing out information about school events, pushing out announcements, and then just we use a lot of the calendar features too. I have a digital signage calendar that has all of the schedule change information that we have. We have 2 different schedules throughout the week. We've got a win day for everybody on Wednesdays, and Friday is our advisory and ramp up to readiness, college and career readiness day for high school. Whenever we have a schedule change, those things are out there for kids and for anybody in the community to see what's going to be different in our building.
Perfect. Love that. Yeah, ignoring an email, who hasn't inadvertently or purposely done that? So I mean, it's good to have that information available other places as well. All right. While we're answering the next question, if you have any questions about using digital signage at different grade levels, drop that in the chat now and we'll take a couple of minutes and answer them. I want to just ask, Lisa, I know you have an example, so I'm going to start with you, but Tim, Chrissy, maybe use this time just to think about any specific success stories of having digital signage in your school and how it had a notable impact on either student engagement or student recognition, or what kind of impact it had. Lisa, I think that you probably know which incident I'm thinking of when the student missed that announcement. You can either share that one, maybe you want to share a different one, but I'll start with you.
Ken, I do know what you're talking about, and that was a few years ago. We had a student who was considered deaf and hard of hearing, and he missed the announcement over the PA for the choir group to be leaving to go on their choir field trip that they had to go to Eastern Michigan University. And since then, I can say with the use of digital signage and Rise Vision, we have had no one miss any phone, any overhead calls. Like we're down to 0. No one's missing anything. And I have to say, it's grown so much since then as well. We regularly see students engaging in our digital signage around the building. And I would say last year, at the end of the year, most recent, we had an awareness week for building wide for Down syndrome. And it turned into, we had a small group of students who actually had Down syndrome, and they wanted to share everything they could about having Down syndrome. They utilized our digital signage, and we were able to use some of the Rise Vision templates, and they had presentations that were playing for the whole week. And students were able to engage in understand better what Down syndrome meant. And then by the end of the week, all of the students in the building had decided that they wanted to participate in what was called Rock Your Socks Day. So I would say we had 90% of the students participating and wearing like funky, weird socks in support of our smaller population of students who do have Down syndrome. And it was just an absolute joy to witness that awareness and that participation, and to see the students who do have Down syndrome, to see the joy on their faces when all of their peers show up, showing support for them, just warmed my heart.
That's so lovely. I love that.
Yep.
All right, Tim, Chrissy, can you top that? Can you, do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I feel like for us, I definitely see like the students stopping when they definitely see themselves being recognized on the different TVs that we have throughout the building that are using Rise Vision, especially when they're student of the month. Or they also stop, I notice a lot for the calendar for the after school activities. And I know that's coming up in the chat a little bit. And the other thing that I actually really do also see them stopping for us. Sometimes we use it for, I'm assuming we're all in a one-to-one environment right now, Chromebook reminders, making sure that we have our things intact. I definitely would say, like when we did our Doodle for Google competition, we do that every year here at the middle school, something our 6th graders really enjoy doing, and some of our 7th and 8th graders participated. But we have a local competition here. So we have a panel of judges that narrow down the doodles, and then we put the finalists on the TV. And that's something that the students are able to stop and take a look at their different artwork and what they've produced to the school community. So I think it's a lot of just celebrations and just being recognized for all the wonderful things that we do, that I really see some of the students stopping and just really just engaging. Or they'll be like, do you know what an after school club is? And I'll be like, let's just check the TV in the hallway. So I think it's been a great adoption for us, and our community has continuously here at the middle school decided to expand with Rise.
Great. All right. And Tim, did you have any example off the top of your head? Or
yeah, for us, the armed forces recognition was huge. That one, there are kids and adults and people that stand in front of that screen and watch that every day. And it's really great to see our kids be that interested in our former students who have served. But probably the biggest impact has just been just the general communication about stuff. Like I said, I post our varsity activities and when they're happening, and as there are changes throughout the week, because in Minnesota, if you're an outdoor sport, there's always changes and when those things happen. It's a good way to keep everybody up to date on those things. And those are important to kids in our community. They want to go to those and support their friends and their relatives. And so we've got those kinds of things are big for them. And lunch menu is huge.
Yeah. The priorities. Your
Yeah,
kids have it right.
exactly.
Okay, I think we had a couple of questions. I'm just gonna have a quick look back here. So some people did ask about the calendar. So we do have a calendar function. We can pull content from your Google Calendar. And I'll send you a help article with that afterwards, just because I can't grab it right now. And then we had a question about creating creating content. Rise Vision does have 600 plus templates, and you can also pull content from PowerPoint, Google Slides, and Canva. So lots of ways to get content onto your displays. All right, next up, I want to talk about content strategy. Lisa, you had mentioned that your school is broken out into different wings, the academy, that kind of thing. So obviously that content that you're displaying changes depending on the age level. Certain things that you can share with the elementary level that you can't share at the high school and vice versa. So how does the content displayed differ based on the age group or at the different grade levels? Tim, maybe you want to start. We haven't had you start in a little while. I know you're just talking at the high school and middle school level, but do you have a different strategy for how you communicate with the different groups?
I have generally about 3 different schedules that run during the school day. So I have one that's specifically for middle school, and that content is middle school specific. So their schedule, the things that impact them the most. I've got a high school schedule, the same kind of thing. And then I've got one that is for our common areas. And that's the way I have broken my content down, is to put things that are more middle school specific into that middle school schedule, and the same for the high school and the same for the general. And that's just, I've been doing that since I started using Rise Vision. That's made most sense to me.
Okay, awesome. And Chrissy, what about you?
I think for us, since we're leveraging Rise Vision just at the middle school, we're really just approaching it as one community. So we're not really breaking content down for 6th, 7th, 8th. But that could change when we adopt our new TV and our new Rise Vision account for the 6th grade wing. There might be something that applies just to them, but not everyone else. We really have not delved too much into separating content per grade levels.
Okay, that's totally fair. And at the middle school level, that's 4 years and they could all pretty much view the same content. It's all going to be really relevant to them. Lisa, and what about you? How do you have a different strategy for the different grade levels?
So we do vary it by grade level, but then I also try and vary it by subject. So our building, the way it's mapped out, lends itself well to separating the displays where we placed them. We made sure that we had at least one display in our music wing. So then that lends itself really well to all things music related. I can work with the music department to have them create a music Google Calendar, which then can be displayed and show like all of their meeting dates and their concerts that they're having and before and after school activities that are going to be going on. Same thing with the gymnasium. We have the 2 displays there. So we utilize that more for the sports-minded displays that Rise Vision offers, as well as our athletic calendar that most of our students need to be aware of. And then some safety protocols that we have in place for the gymnasium, specifically to that larger space. But then also knowing that there's going to be community members in there for after school events. So then we would want to display relevant materials for that space for our community. In the hallways, we have it set up so that it's separated per grade level for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And with a little over 1,000 students roaming the buildings, we want to make sure that content is relevant for the time that the students are going to be seeing it while they're in the hallway. So we do separate out per grade level the schedule changes that might be happening or any up-to-date news that students are going to need to see. And then as well as in the front where near the office where we have everyone is coming and going from the front office, that's the only location that our community is able to enter and exit the building throughout the school day. We want to make sure that we're displaying more content related to parents. So maybe it's a little bit there, obviously it's building procedures and policies, but then maybe some more updated district information like Board of Education meetings, a tutoring list, things of those nature that our parents might want to be seeing.
Mhm. Yeah, you can definitely break out the content into areas where, or for parents and for the community. Tim, you had mentioned that you use your digital signage for like after school community events. Do you have a schedule for those events, or what kind of content do you share when it's after school and the community's involved?
Most of my screens after school throw up a Wayfinder screen just so people know where to go. Because again, my building gets used 7 o'clock to 9 or 10 o'clock every night. There are some people that come in and don't know, exactly where to go. Again, at 3:30, the Wayfinder screen pops up on most of my screens. But the one that I have by our field house, which is a community accessed field house, posts the important thing there is it posts the schedule for that space. Even though that space is open to the community, there are often activities that are scheduled in there. And during those times, we want the people that are coming in to use just for open gym or whatever to know, hey, you can't be in here during that time. At 3:30, that one pops up with the schedule for that evening. And then it rolls a calendar that shows what I can't remember how many days out that calendar goes, at least a couple of weeks, that shows what events are happening in our field house after school and on the weekends, just so people are aware of that.
Okay. Tim, I wrote down this question when you were talking about how you're using digital signage in the beginning, but because your school is open to the public and you do have the community involved, have you done any advertising from your community? Have you generated any revenue from local advertisers?
We have not done that. And I'm not sure. I am the content creator for all of our digital signage. So that on top of being a principal is a little bit too much for me to handle. So we haven't actually had any
Fair.
discussions about that. The only thing that I advertise is our local education foundation, because they actually donated about half of the screens and half the media players that we have up on the walls now. I advertised that those things were provided by our Cannon Falls Education Foundation.
Nice.
I would have to echo that too. We definitely have had the support, like all the TVs that basically we have and are donated through our educational foundation. So we've been so lucky to have their support. But I am the person who creates the content. I do feel like we haven't investigated that area either.
It is an option. We do actually have a case study. Sarah Scott, they are a school. I can't remember where they are right off the top of my head, but they have their digital signage paid for by the revenue that they generated from advertising for local businesses. And yeah, they were able to pay for their digital signage. So it is an option. I think I saw a question from Rebecca about content creation. So I just want to scroll back up to that before we start talking about parent communication. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so Rebecca, who is in Switzerland, which I love, says, who is responsible for creation and management of your screen content? Is it marketing and communications, or is it faculty technology champions? So I think in Chrissy and Tim, you both answered this question. So Tim, you're responsible for it, and this
Yep.
is why you get Principal of the Year award. Chrissy, you're in charge of it. Lisa, who manages the majority of the content? Is it you at the middle school?
I manage the majority of the content at the middle school, but the rest of the district is spread out amongst our technology department, but then also professionals working directly in those buildings. But the content is always something that we're working directly with administration in the building as well as our technology department so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page with what we're displaying and what we're showcasing for our district. But in terms of the daily and the weekly updates for Saline Middle School, that one's me. And it's super quick. It only takes, once you get everything up and running and have it on a nice consistent schedule, I can come in the morning and change the daily content. Hey, what kind of day is it? Which elective are you supposed to be going to? What's the schedule for the day? All of those kinds of things, maybe 5 minutes or less. It's quick.
I would also have
Chrissy, were
to
you
say
going to say?
that we do get other departments involved, and while they might not necessarily have the ability to create the content in the platform, because everything is just so intuitive and agnostic when it comes to integrating and bringing things in, like Canva or Google Slides, we can have other departments make content for us, and then they just share the item with me that needs to get posted, and that's very simple in terms of posting, because 100% of the time it might be a Google slideshow or a couple of photos that we can just add to it. So I just feel like there's ways that we are getting more people to present the content where we're not necessarily designing or updating or modifying the content that Rise Vision has. We are generating content at some points through different departments.
Yep.
Mhm.
We're doing the same thing, Chrissy. It's easy, just put together a Google slide and I just sent it out to all of our club advisors and said, update this on a regular basis to advertise what you're doing, throw some pictures on there. When is your next meeting? And then we can also do a thing where I put Canva, I can use it to create a nice display and throw a QR code onto something so the students can scan it and it'll take them to a Google Drive, a folder that I've created where they can drop pictures of them and their pet. So then it can be displayed. Here's our building, and we have some appropriate pictures of students with their pets. And that kind of draws students into looking at the digital signage, which is always a benefit.
Our
Mhm.
school,
Agree. And I feel
Mhm.
like it gives like those different clubs like the ability to just stop and have that moment like, oh, look, there's what I did in that club, or what are we
Yeah.
doing in this club?
our school newspaper, they do the vast majority of photography, even the yearbook even shares some of that. And they manage a display or a presentation. So kids can see up-to-date photos of events that have happened at school. So that one is one that I don't do. And the Armed Forces one I don't do either. That one's done through a Google slide presentation by a teacher. So she keeps that up to date.
Mhm. Okay, great. Yeah, the schools that I've talked to, Rebecca, there's lots of different options for content creation. I've talked to schools who have a teacher involved or like a media specialist who's taken over, maybe a teacher who has a multimedia class and that's part of the curriculum. I've had students get involved, so that they have students managing the content. So that's always great as well. We do have the student role, so you can have students in there creating content, not necessarily pushing all of that content out, but that's an option as well. And then I have talked to schools who have a marketing department or communications department, and most of the content goes through them. It's really up to your school and your district and who has availability and who's interested. That's one of the a couple of things to consider. So I wanted to talk about parents and parent communication. I think we've touched on it a little bit. Lisa, you had mentioned that you guys have displays where parents are coming in and out in that front vestibule as well. I also wanted to share, we have 2 case studies from schools who are using digital signage for parent communication. So one of those examples I used was in Georgia. They are primary school, so their kids are obviously pretty young, but they do use digital signage for parent communication. So when their parents are dropping or picking kids up, there's a display in the lobby, and that's where they share all of their different content. They will have a calendar where they share PTO meetings, any events that parents are invited to, awards day, field day, those kinds of things. And that's synced with their Google Calendar. So Kaylee doesn't even have to think about updating it. It just gets pulled automatically. I will drop that case study in the chat if anybody wants to look at that. And then I have a second one, and this one actually, Michelle, who was the champion over at Bottlebin Perth, I believe she's in the communications department. Yeah, she's the director of communications. So she handles their digital signage. So she said, you have parents standing around waiting for their kids who are maybe dilly-dallying. So she has digital signage to keep them entertained and at least something to look at while they're waiting for their students or for their kids to get out of the school. So she has something that usually about 20 minutes of content so that when they're there, they're waiting, they can see relevant information that is relevant to parents, event reminders, menus, school activities, anything like that. So do the 3 of you, do you have any other insights for parent communication that you can add?
Conferences.
Oh,
When
yeah.
are conferences?
Yeah.
How do I sign up? Like what day, what time? That's actually my favorite template.
We use the
Yes.
conferences, and then when we actually do have like open house and as well as parent conference night, our building is a bit awkward in trying to navigate. So I make sure that I actually have like on each different display, like the map of our building and this little arrow of saying, you are here kind of thing. So the parents can know where they're at, where they need to go. Logistically helps around the building. We also have done in the past where students, maybe there was like a special something happening in the auditorium in our building or back in the gym, and parents were going to leave with their student ahead of time before school was out, put up an easy QR code where parents could go in, sign their student out, kept the traffic down in the office area, and then also helped parents try and navigate that situation as well.
Love that. I love any sort of wayfinding digital signage. And even in the school, I think that's great. I spoke to a school a couple weeks ago and they said in their high school, they have wayfinding at the beginning of the school year. So all of the freshmen come in and they have digital signage that helps them navigate where they're going. And I'm like, where was that when I was in high school?
Just to spin off of what Lisa said, I made a meet the teacher template in Canva because I love that it's just so accessible now. And our teachers were actually able to contribute to all the content that they were able to post a picture and they were able to explain a little bit about themselves. And then, so I felt like they were not only helping me post content, but they were like refining their Canva skills as well as we were approaching open house in late August with our students.
Love that. All right. So I think that covers parent communication. If you do have any comment or questions, drop them in the chat. We are coming up to the 10-minute mark, so I do just want to be cognizant of our time and not get too carried away. This wouldn't be a webinar if I didn't bring up screen sharing. So we did talk about it a little bit in the beginning, and it is a new feature that Rise Vision just launched. So I'm just going to share, these are going to be quick examples of ways that you could be using screen sharing in the school setting. Everybody who's on here, if you do have Rise Vision, you can use screen sharing for free on any subscription level until November 7th. So if you're interested in that, you can send me an email afterwards, or you can email your CSM, your customer support manager, and they'll get that turned on. But a couple of examples. So we do have screen sharing. You could use in a setting, maybe your education team is brainstorming ideas. Maybe you're talking about ways that you can use digital signage throughout your school. Everybody can be in the room together, they're brainstorming, but then you have the option to switch between who's sharing their screen. So everybody can, this is my idea, I connect, share my screen, share that idea, and then give it back over to the moderator, whoever's in charge. So this is really great for collaboration and keeping everybody engaged who's in the meeting. And then our second example, and this applies more to in the classroom. So if you have interactive flat panels or you have displays up at the front, like a TV, you can use screen sharing or in that classroom setting. So the moderator is going to be your teacher. They ensure that it's all organized and can give permission or take away permission from the students to share. While the teacher's going through their lesson, maybe it's a math class, they go through the lesson and then they're going to have each student present and share how they're going to solve that problem. They can let Jane or John or whoever share their screen and then cancel that screen sharing and take back over control of the display. So this helps students be actively participating. They're solving problems in real time, but it also enhances that engagement and learning, which is great as well. And it really unlocks the teacher from the front of the classroom so they can be more involved in the classroom as well. All right, so if you have any questions about screen sharing as well, you can drop those in the chat. Looking ahead, what do you think, how do you see the use of digital signage evolving as over the next couple of years? Chrissy, why don't we start with you? You had mentioned that your school is getting more integrated with it. So what does the future of digital signage look like at your school?
I would like to have it in every classroom just so that the information is there and it's accessible, and it allows us to ensure that announcements are getting to where they need to be. It's not up to the teacher to read something off their computer, they're just being projected. I also really love the ability for school emergencies or alerts, like if we're doing a fire drill of some sort, like that is also something. So I see us progressively growing. It's only our second year of adoption. I feel like as we learn as to where it could fit and grow, I definitely see a place for continuing to expand the digital signage that we have in the middle school to reach more audience base, more classroom base. And I feel like that's when I could take advantage maybe of gearing the content more to specific grade levels. And I feel like that's just something for our students to be able to continuously have access to important information versus just a couple of places that we have them currently displaying in the building.
And Tim, I'm going to ask this question to you because you've been a Rise Vision user for the most amount of time, but what advice would you give to any other educators or administrators who are looking to implement a solution like digital signage into their school?
Don't be intimidated by digital signage because over time, Rise Vision has put some things in place that make it very easy to manage. The template library is phenomenal and it keeps getting better every year. When I started, I don't think there were any templates and I had to create those things by hand and they didn't look the best. I'm not the artsiest person, but I can use a template without any problem. The affordability of Rise Vision is fabulous. You can use a variety of different screens, you can use a variety of different types of media players, and you can get a really good result out of it without a lot of expense.
That's great. All right, we just have a couple of minutes left. So I'm just going to skip ahead in my presentation. If you're interested in seeing more examples of how digital signage is being used in schools, we have lots of case studies on our website. I put a couple on here, one from California. They were using it for school menus, which is great. Wisconsin, they were using it, or they are using it for school safety, and they were able to reduce the time to lockdown by 50%. So that's amazing. And then we have a school in Missouri as well who switched from Sign Builder to Rise Vision, and it was a seamless transition. You can actually make that switch in 3 steps, crazy fast. And then if you're interested in learning more about Rise Vision, you can get a personalized demo. You just go onto our website and there's buttons all over there to get a demo. We would love to show you more about Rise Vision and what it could do for your school. And my last thing is, if you're not following us on LinkedIn already, please join us there. We share lots of snippets from webinars, case studies, training sessions, so much more. Lots of tips and tricks. Anna, you've asked me lots of great questions. I can't answer them all now, but I'm going to have support reach out and help you out with to get you all those insights. And I want to thank all of our panelists for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to share about how your school is using Rise Vision. So thank you, Lisa, Tim, and Chrissy. I assume you're all on LinkedIn and hopefully we can all connect there. This will be recorded or will be sent out as a recording. But yeah, thank you all for being here. And thank you, 3, for being here and sharing